Welcome, welcome back to the Fantasy Waiver Wire. It's your boy Tubby. With me as always is Lee. And week one is upon us. Football is here. I hope you guys are all ready. I know all my football fans out there are definitely ready for this season. So I just always want to start off with this season. Season 2023, 2024. It's always good to be back. Doesn't it feel differently? Doesn't it feel different
Yeah,
when football's back?
yeah, the I guess you could say the sun shines brighter, the leaves on the trees look greener. Yeah, I've been smiling all day. I mean, I'm wearing a Lions jersey tonight. I'm wearing the old Megatron jersey. I'm originally from Detroit, but of course raised an Eagles fan by my uncle, which I thank him for because Detroit has had so many sad years. I feel for my fellow Detroiters for what they've had to go through. But I've always had a soft spot in my heart for them. They've just not been my favorite team. So knowing that they're playing tonight against the team that beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, it just all day long. You just get this feeling of things are different. It's a lot happier. Time. Fall is great. I mean, you can make excuses for staying in and watching football because it's the weather's bad outside. So you can just
Right.
freaking do what you want.
Right. Anybody say, "Hey, what you do today?" Or Lee, what you do today? You say, "Oh, I was watching football all day." People are like, "Oh, that's acceptable. I get it. I get it." This is America, and football is our number one sport, man. As you can tell by the sponsorships and just the energy that goes around. I think one of the things that make football even more, how can I put this? Just it's spread across the world even more, and that's been through fantasy football. I think, it's gotten, I remember my wife, she doesn't even watch football, but she's won a league one year when I had a league uh, back about 10 years ago. So it just gets people that don't really like football. Some people may not even watch football, but they like competing. They like competition. They like competing against their friends and talking smack. Um, you know, and I think fantasy football has brought us closer together in so many ways, man. And if you have a money league, it always a little bit extra where you can win a little cash to go with it. Um, but starting with our league, man. So on this podcast, we typically talk about our fantasy football league, which is the Big Baller Bros. I'm the commissioner of. Lee is one of the managers of, and we just did our draft on the second. And now it's week one, and I'm already running into problems, Lee. If you look at my lineup, I'm gonna even show you the bench right here. I'm gonna just jump right into it. This week, Lord Vader up against Outcast, and I've already had to put Travis Kelsey on the bench. Let me pull
Ugh,
up the screen real quick.
yeah.
Boom. So walk with me. So as you can see, I have Travis Kelsey on the bench. If you follow us on YouTube or Instagram, rather, I did post a video on Instagram of me making the changes and any other backup or emergency tight ends that you can get off the waiver wire. I went ahead and put those there. So yeah, man. So tonight I'm going with David Njoku
Mm,
to back up Kelsey. I still don't believe he's going to play. Yeah, he's officially inactive. So yeah,
right.
Travis Kelsey is officially inactive for tonight. So even more, go back and look at that Instagram. It's about 4 or 5 tight ends on there that you can pick up. So tonight, but one person I still do have, and that is one Patrick Mahomes. Bittersweet that he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion on, on behalf of my Eagles, like you mentioned, man. And so yeah, man, my lineup for this week: I have Patrick Mahomes, I have DK Metcalf going against the Rams, I have Mike Williams going against Miami, Travis Etienne, Damian Pierce, Joku, Herbert, Butler, and Miami's defense. Um, so far, it looks like I'm down. That down like I'm scheduled to lose, but that's a big chunk of having Kelsey out. But I still hope that maybe DK Metcalf or Mahomes can do his magic and get me so far ahead that they can that it helps out a little bit, man. Yeah, going up against T Law, bounce back season, won his first playoff game last year. So we'll see how Jacksonville starts. You can combine that with Christian Kirk, outcast there, Debo Samuels, Bijan Robinson, which is a big question mark
Mhm.
around Robinson. You see right there, it says projected to be 15. Next week, it can say 9 or it
Yeah.
can say 22. You know,
Yeah, I'm
uh,
right with you.
it's
I
no telling. There's no telling. Then I'm going against Derrick Henry, Eric Ingram, Najee Harris. I got some good running backs there. I'm going up against some pretty formidable running backs there. McPherson, Cincinnati, and Dallas, man. How you liking this matchup, man?
Kickers are kickers, so we can throw that out the board right now. I mean, that's
Right.
8-7. But what really stands out for me in this is, and you mentioned it. First of all, Bijan Robinson. We don't know what we don't know about Bijan. We know what he did in college. We know that he's a phenom, but we could see a little bit more of Algier in this game because it's his first start. It's a first game. So that one kind of plays in your favor when you have to start that rookie, but he has to start him. You don't draft a guy first or in the second round and not start him, because I'm pretty sure he got him in the first round, if I'm not mistaken.
For sure.
Or might have got Derrick Henry and then he followed up with Bijan. So Derrick, of course, should be good. The New Orleans defense has improved, but the things that stand out for me, other than Bijan, is the fact that you've got Debo going up against a really tough Pittsburgh defense on the road. That bodes well in your favor. And Najee Harris going up against a stout 49er defense. That to me is going to be a defensive battle, so those two right there could be taken out of it. When you're playing that defensive battle, that's that you don't know what you're going to get. So on your side of the ball, I see offensive production. I see DK going up against the Rams in a kind of a favorable matchup for him. Their defense last year fell apart to shambles because they had to trade a lot of guys because they couldn't pay everybody.
Hmm.
So I think that's going to bode well for Seattle, and it's at home. Again, Mike Williams against Miami, that could at home, that could bode well for them. So I think that you've got a lot of good favorable matchups. Herbert against Green Bay, where we don't know what we're getting with Jordan Love. And then that again at home. So I think that a lot of these play into your favor. And tonight could be a shootout. I think with whenever you've got Mahomes out there, he's going to score points regardless of whether Kelsey's out there or not.
Right.
So it's really comes down to, can Detroit keep up with them? And even if not, you're putting Mahomes back on the field, over and over again throughout the course of the game. So I think 129, 133, you're close. I think you've got a slight edge in this one to me. And really it goes back to Bijan and that San Francisco Pittsburgh game.
Right.
Those,
Right.
I
Right.
think, it's going to be a low scoring game, but we'll see. Could be wrong.
One of the things that I looked at was Christian Kirk, and I was like, man, that's Christian Kirk. But I was thinking that they picked up Calvin Ridley
Hmm.
from Jacksonville. So I
Hmm.
was like, man, Calvin Ridley he's gonna chip away at some of those touches. Remember, he went to T Law, went to
Right.
Evan Ingram's a little bit further, a little bit later down in the season. He started going to Evan
Yeah.
Ingram started having some games like down because I think they traded for him. Did they trade for him mid-season or did he come back mid-season? I
I
forgot.
think,
But
yeah, yeah.
either way, when he took a little while, but then he really got going with them, man.
That's
Uh,
another thing to point out. He's got 3 players from Jacksonville, so he's counting on that game
right,
against Indy. We don't know anything about Indy yet. We know
right,
Shane Steichen went over there as the new offensive, for our old offensive coordinator to be the head
right.
coach. We
Hmm.
don't know what he's built. Uh, we will until we see it play, out. We know they've got some good defensive players, so that could be at Indy, that could be an upset. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, you don't
yeah.
know.
You don't know, man. Deion Jackson. He started a couple games last year when Taylor was out, so it's not like the stars are going to be too bright or this is his first start. So, man,
Yeah.
he walked into a pretty solid situation there. We just don't know what comes of the quarterback Richardson. Um, so yeah, man, we will see.
Doesn't
Let's
he
go
have
over to your matchup.
doesn't he
Yeah.
have Minshew backing him up, Richardson?
He does. He does, man. 5 yard Minshew. He
Yeah,
just paper
yeah,
cuts you to death, man. Even in the preseason, it
yep.
was just dink, 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 dink. He just gets down the field, but it's like, oh man.
And he
It's
throws an
just
interception on the goal line to
oh
the
he did, and he
oh,
did. He
sorry.
did actually do that. So he did throw that pick right there on the. I mean, he's man. I mean, we've seen it in the Saints game. It's the reason why we didn't pick Jalen Carter earlier,
Right.
that pick six on the Jets. But we digress. We can let's go Hurts when I pee against
Yes.
White Rhinos.
Yeah. So
All right, man. You want to talk about your matchup, man?
yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I mean, the draft worked out for me. I had the number 2 pick, so I got McCaffrey. So again, it's similar to his situation with Najee. It all depends on how the Pittsburgh defense plays McCaffrey, but what I like about the Niners, even though I don't like the Niners, is that they do a lot of swing passes. They're gonna get McCaffrey the ball one way or the other. Ayuk to me is just a solid receiver. It really comes down to targets. Does Debo get the targets or does Ayuk? I when I had Debo last year, it just seemed like it. Just seemed like it. When you look
Mhm.
over the whole season, I it just seemed like it, and it wasn't really the reality. Seemed like Ayuk always got the carries, but when you're a fantasy owner and the other receivers getting all the targets, it
All the
just
time.
frustrates you. So I picked up Ayuk this year to try to see how the other half lives. We'll see how that game goes. So that's going to be a tough game. I like Herbert against Miami at home. I like Olave against Tennessee. Again, don't know what we're going to get out of Tennessee. We know that Derrick Henry is going to be solid, but the rest of that team, they brought in Diop. So that could be an offensive shootout and keep New Orleans on the field. I got Hawkinson at tight end against Tampa Bay. I got a lot of players this week that can score some points. So I'm favored right now by 14. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's crazy. And he has Burrow and Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson, but yet I'm still favored by 14. And that's just basically because the matchups kind of swing toward my favor. I didn't even bring up Pollard on Sunday Night Football against the New York Giants. And one of the things I love about, even though like I said, I'm a dedicated Dallas hater, I love about having Pollard on my team is there's no Zeke anymore. And there'll be other backup running backs, but we know
Right.
that Pollard is going to be getting the ball on first and second down, and probably third down. It's just going to be that kind of situation. So, yeah, I mean, he's got some solid players. Aaron Jones, Mixon at running back is good, but it really my combo of McCaffrey Pollard is better. He has Kittle. I have Hawkinson. I think that's a wash. He has Hill and Wilson. I have Olave Ayuk, so he's got the edge and wide receiver there. And then our quarterbacks are basically a wash with Herbert and Burrow. So, yeah, I like my chances. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to start this year off with the win because I think last year I went 0-3 to start the season, and then it's very hard to come back from that. Very hard.
Yeah, man. It is. I see what you know, it is surprising. If you looked at the roster, you wouldn't think that you were projected to be 14 points ahead. Like that
Yeah,
was the most like alarming thing for me. Like, dang, especially when you have, you know, the Eagles defense. I think the Eagles defense may be getting a little underestimated here, especially if it's bad weather. You see the sign right here. It could be some
oh yeah,
thunderstorms and whatnot. They could be all over Mac Jones out there. So the
if they
only my only lookouts here is that Eagles defense against Mac Jones in New England. Mac Jones can sometimes play worse in New England because there's still an offense about him. So it's like you're going to hear this rumble, especially with Zappy up out of there.
right,
Um, but I think if they can get to him, they can get to him all day. It's kind of one of those situations where I don't see like Mac Jones like miraculously bringing them back. I think once we start hitting him, he's that's going to set the pace, and so. And then with you got Tony Pollard over there, and you got your boy Zeke over in New England. So we'll see if Zeke can vulture some of those tight ends to bring that Philly line down. We'll see. Be interesting.
oh,
But yeah, man, everything else. McCaffrey can make up for about three players here.
yeah,
So it's still these running Mixon and Jones, they're like really, I don't want to call them boomer bust guys, but they could, you could look up, they could have like 25 or like 8. Like it's like some of these guys aren't as consistent. But the only thing I worry with your squad is, like you said, man, is the IU and that Christian McCaffrey. Who gets the runs late? Do they give it to McCaffrey straight up, or do they run a reverse with IU? Or Debo or something like that.
right,
It can get really tricky. But playing against that Pittsburgh offense, man, I don't think Pittsburgh can really stop the ball that well. Like I'm not the pass rather. I don't
right.
think they can stop the pass. You have TJ Watt. That's how they stop the pass is with TJ Watt. You know what I mean? But you see like Porter in practice, they got the rookie out there that, they drafted a corner, so they're still not really sure there. We'll see. So I think if Purdy doesn't turn the ball over, man, I mean, San Fran can have a day with Pittsburgh because the jury's still out with Kenny Pickett for some reason. It's just still kind of there. But anyway,
Yeah,
Lockett's, I mean, he could, that's always a good pickup. Lockett easily get you 2 touchdowns, man, in the game. You just look up. He has like 2 touchdowns. Hawkinson, I think I like your matchup better with Hawkinson over Kittle. And Kittle is just a mystery, man. Every week he's hurt. Something's going on with Kittle. So I think the projections is right. Um, I think you have a more favorable defensive matchup with Herbert going against Miami, with
Right.
Ramsey being out versus Burrow. I know that the Cleveland defense isn't that stout, but you have those linemen. You got the oh my goodness, what's his name? Um, Garrett. Is it Garrett?
Oh, Miles Garrett? Yeah.
Miles Garrett. And you
Yeah.
got guys like that. You got, Burrow. I don't know how that calf injury is doing. He could be limping out of there. You just never know, man. And man, Tyreek Hill. Again, you got some boomer bust guys with White Rhino. I think he got like a lot of home run guys. Like if he
Yeah.
hits, he really hits. You got guys that's going to high volume on their team, like Hawkinson is going to get most of the snaps versus we don't know how many snaps Kittle's going to get
True.
coming off their hurt. So yeah, man, that's that. Yeah, man,
One
good luck
one
to
thing
you.
I'll say on the defensive front is if the Eagles are playing in a wet weather situation, that could affect their pass rush because it could slow the pass rush down if they can't get any footing. We saw that in the damn Kansas City Super Bowl. No footing
Right.
equals no sacks. But I'm not bitter. But what I did,
Hmm.
I have the Kansas City defense, but I did not want to play them against the Lions tonight because I didn't want them to have a chance to get, 2, 3 scores. So luckily for me, and I'll put this out there
Right.
to anybody looking for a defense to play this week, the Washington defense was available. Look at the projected points, 16.22 for Yahoo leagues. Why is that? Because they're playing at home against Arizona, quite possibly the worst team in the league. And if you've seen the recent Jonathan Gannon videos, it is so awkward and cringy what he's doing there. And I don't think anybody has any buy-in. You're going to see probably I think everybody agrees on this. One of the flattest football teams in the history of the NFL come out on Sunday to play Washington. So that to me bodes in the favor where Washington could easily garner a ton of sacks. Kyler Murray not playing, so this is going to be a complete another crap show for Arizona on Sunday. So that's one of the things I did. I think that helps me. Gave me a 4-point edge in the defensive side. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping the Eagles do well on defense, but we'll see how it goes.
And no, that's a good point and a good pickup. I think they have Josh Dobbs
Yeah.
as the quarterback out there in Arizona. He was the quarterback last year for Cleveland. I just start on I just don't. I mean, Ertz. I think he's still hurt. I don't
Yeah.
even know if he's really fresh. I see he's still a free agent.
Connor at running back.
Connor. It's
Yeah.
only so long he can do it. Yeah, you have Connor. They have a few weapons, but I feel you, man. Overall, nobody jumps out when you think about the Cardinals. They spent so many calories on their quarterback since Josh Rosen to now. It's just like they just can't get right. So yeah, man, that's a good point. That's a really good pickup with Arizona. Uh, yeah, man. Yeah. And then I think about it, yeah, they should get crazy. Washington defense they have a nice line. They have a really physical line.
Yeah.
So I can see Dobbs maybe dumping it off to Connor a lot. And man, Hollywood Brown didn't even look that good this offseason.
No.
So no Ertz, no Hollywood Brown. Hopkins is gone.
Mhm.
Where is the ball going?
I have no idea. And I can
So
tell you,
yeah,
word of warning to Connor owners. I mean, first of all, if you drafted Connor, you should know what you're getting. He is gonna, granted, he could be the sole focus of the offense, but also when you play a tough run defense like Washington that has a good front seven, he could have it be in for a long day. I mean, he's just gonna get beat down. He may get a high volume of carries, but he's gonna get beat down. So, walk softly if you're gonna start Connor this week because it's anytime, any week with Arizona this week is just gonna be I'm just glad I'm not a Cardinals fan because honestly, I probably wouldn't watch football this year. If I was a Cardinals fan, I would be like, I'm
pretty
just going to
tough.
watch the big games. I'm not even going to watch my team this year because they are going to be bad. I think everybody knows that they're going to be bad this year.
Yeah, especially if their defense is run by Gannon.
Yeah.
You're known as the guy. I know, it's been in the news recently that he's like, oh, it cost the Eagles a Super Bowl, blah blah blah. Like, we're over it. It's fast now, but it's embarrassing when it's not that we lost. It's that you have two wide open touchdowns, just untouched touchdowns. That means you were unprepared, man. They made a second half adjustment and came out and just boom. Um, so yeah, man, two wide open. I think that Sky Moore one's the one that really just makes no sense, man. They knew you guys were switching off.
Yep.
You just don't have I don't know. Anyway, we have a better team this year. We'll see if we have better coordinators this year. The
Right.
jury's while we talking about the jury's still out. Might as well get it out there while we're talking about it. Uh, the jury's still out on the Eagles. We don't know. I still think losing Steichen is a major loss because the turning point in the Eagles, not last year, but the year before that, is when Steichen took over the play calling
Mhm.
and the Eagles limped into the playoffs and played Tampa. But a lot of people don't understand that. Once again, Jalen having to just go with the flow. First, he got one person in his ear all year. Now he has to listen to another person midway through the season. Now Steichen's just called. Now he doesn't have to listen to Nick now. Can you imagine going through all the OTAs, all the training, and you're listening to Nick the whole time, and then now you're not listening to Nick halfway through the season. You're listening to Shane,
Yeah. No,
and then when they gave him a clear game plan, a clear slate, man, the Eagles had a hell of a year last year. And the offense it looked like this wasn't the first year of a coordinator that Jalen was in. And you saw the difference. The difference from when Steichen took over until he left, the Eagles were very productive on offense. Our problem was stopping teams, making mediocre quarterbacks look like Hall of Famers every time they played the Eagles. Like that was our problem for years. So yeah, man. But good. You got
I'll
anything on
say
that?
this about the Eagles defense. I watched a lot of the preseason, and if you have their defense on fantasy, one of the things I noticed is that Desai was running a lot of that 10 yards off the ball zone coverage that Gannon was running last year. I hope that's not the plan. I hope that was just the fact that it was because it's preseason and a lot of the guys coming in done. But if that's his scheme, I worry about the Eagles defense this year from the standpoint of being able to cover because we've got great coverage corners and we've got some rookies that are coming in like Josh Joby and Sydney that is going to be doing really well. But I worry about them not being put in positions to make plays because that's what Gannon did. He did not put them in the right positions. But we don't want to dwell on the Eagles too much. It's just the fact that it does affect defensive. I have actually Eagles defense in another fantasy league, and I went after I drafted them. I went, "Ugh, I just hope I don't know what Desai is going to do. I don't know what his defense is going to look like. I do know that our pass rush with Jalen Carter, with Jordan Davis in the middle, Fletcher Cox, Brendan Graham, Hassan Reddick, and you just keep going is going to be and Barnett. They've tried to shop him. Um, I think it's going to be a very stout front seven for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the way they put him into coverage. We'll see. We'll see on Sunday. We don't have to wait anymore. It's coming. It's just we're
No,
here.
no.
We're what a half hour away from 8 o'clock to get to the first game. Come on, this is great.
Yeah, it is, man. Let me see what else you have on your bench as well, too. You have Swift,
Mhm.
Montgomery. Okay, so pretty loaded there. Let's look at some other matchups around our league. Before we get into talking about tonight's game and whatnot. If you're out there, you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment section, man. We'll answer them as best we can. Um, yeah. So you got A Will versus Marine Raider. Oh, you must get a level gold when you win fantasy or something. I
Oh,
don't
look
have
at that.
gold
Oh, yeah.
around
The
mine. It's all
reward.
fancy. Look at
Mm.
that. So
It's
excuse me.
motivation to win the league now. Get that little gold.
And I mean, he's so confident with his gold banner that he starts Geno Smith.
Who's he
That's
has on
how
his bench? Who is he on his bench?
I mean, Dak
Prescott. Well,
Prescott.
there you go. There you
Look, man, here's one thing I'm not doing. Now, oh man, you know, he is he is a Rams fan, so he knows about the Rams. Maybe he doesn't have any confidence in his Rams defense without anyone really besides Donald. You have Aaron Donald there, who is looking like they're going to have to trade him or something. I don't know how long he's going to sit there and get beat up.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to retire a legend. I mean, he's already a legend, so it's like he can hang it up with one Super Bowl and still be good and still in his early 30s. So that's going to be weird. But I'm starting. I'm starting Dak Prescott against the Giants. I mean, yeah, against the Giants. I just am, man. First game of the year. Dak can sometimes start off really hot. It's towards the end of the year where he sucks. playoff stuff, like important stuff. But like week one, this is a perfect in New York, Dallas Giants. They're going to be ultra focused, man. You have a one on one side, you have a happy running back. On the other side, you have a disgruntled running back, and Saquon Barkley. May play one game and be like, all right, I'm good. You just never know, man. These guys are pissed off. But anyway, I'm definitely starting Dak Prescott in this situation. Um, yeah, so you would start Gino over Dak?
To be honest, the thing is, I get it with the Rams, and that's the thing is, it's a matchup I think he's looking at. But I agree with you. I know we give Dak a lot of grief because he does throw a lot of picks, and he does throw them in really bad situations. But last year, they got off to a bad start because he got injured in the game against Tampa Bay. He got booed off the field, and then he
Oh
didn't
yeah, that
start.
was game one. Yeah,
That was last year,
that
yeah,
was
and
against Brady and them. That's a little
it
different, but I
was.
feel you.
It was, but I'm just saying he got injured and got
Right,
booed,
right.
and that was at home is what well, so that was kind of demoralizing, and then he came back strong once he came back from the injury. I think this is a chance for Dak to it's one of those things, they bring in Trey Lance to sit there and breathe behind his neck. The Cowboys are doing all these things like they're writing on the wall that they're ready to move on from Dak. And fear is a good motivator, and I think that will impact a lot into how Dak plays this year, where he's not 100% certain he's the guy. I mean, you sit there, why would they trade for Trey Lance in the preseason if he's the guy? I mean, you've got backups. You can get a different backup. Trey Lance, if you're trading for him, you're thinking he might be your quarterback of the future. So I think that that'll result in Dak playing really well. I hope he doesn't. I hope he crumbles under the pressure and folds like a cheap suit and puts up 5 fantasy points. But I think you're right. I think he will do really well against the Giants. I think that could be a really good game. I'm actually, as much as I hate both of those teams, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that game.
Oh yeah, me too, man. I want to see how Darren Waller does in the
Agree.
division now as well too. That's to me that's the
Yeah.
biggest sleeper is Darren Waller. I mean, he could really change. He's a game changer, man. I don't know why the Raiders let him go. Could be a money thing, but he's a game changer, man. And over here, man, A. Will has a real interesting squad, man. Justin Fields, you have Chase, you have Devontae, which I guess he has two really, really, really good receivers. Um, I don't know where the ball is going to go in Philly when it comes to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So I'm not really sure there. For running backs, he has Jacobs, who had a hell of an end to the year last year. Uh, so that could be. There's no telling where they can go with that. You have Matson, was that Farmuth,
Freiermuth, yeah,
Farmuth,
Pittsburgh.
Farmuth, and Ridley, Sanders, and good old New Orleans. Man, I'm not gonna say I'm not really that excited about this squad. I don't. Nothing really jumps out to me when I look at this team. So I don't know, man. What you think about this squad?
You're right. One thing you said that is extremely right is that I had Devontae last year, and it was hard to start him because when I did, AJ would get all the catches and touchdowns. It seemed like it was really weird in Philly last year where it wasn't like spread. Granted, Devontae would get maybe 6 catches for 60 yards, 70 yards, and then AJ would get 10 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then it would flip the very next game,
Right.
and Devontae would be the guy because I think that Jalen goes, he doesn't force it. He goes with who is not being covered. He does really well as far as getting it, but it changes from week to week. So they both had great numbers, both of them
Right.
over 1,000 yards, but you never knew from week to week who was, like you said, who was going to be the guy to get the ball. So that one worries me. Jacobs, great year last year, workhorse. I don't have a lot of faith in Garoppolo, so I see a lot of teams stacking against the run. So I think that could hurt Jacobs' year this year. I think that's gonna be a problem. Madison, yeah, okay. We'll see. I mean, he's replacing Dalvin Cook. That's big shoes to fill. And they're a passing offense, so that one's gonna be tough. I think the best player he's got is Chase, of course, taken in the first round. Fields could put up numbers. It's a tough one. This Ridley is okay. But yeah,
Coming
it's
off a
not.
full year
Yeah,
off, Ridley.
yeah, yeah. It's not the best squad out there. I'll say that. So yeah, on the other side, though, looking at his
Mhm.
running backs, he's your brother Marine Raiders has, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Eckler. If Jahmyr Gibbs tonight does what he's capable of doing, and where the Detroit thinks he is the next Barry Sanders, but even more dynamic, if you will. If that's what happens tonight, and we see it tonight, then I think that Marine Raiders is going to be set up for a nice season with the combo of Gibbs and Eckler. They say that they're going to throw to Gibbs out of the backfield, and if you imagine you got two pass catching backs, and then with the rest of the team, he's got CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins. That's not bad. It's not a bad lineup. Your brother could be in contention to win it again this year. We'll see.
Man, yeah, he does have a good lineup, even with the San Francisco defense,
Mhm.
stout defense. So yeah, this is definitely one of the more fluid. The only, I guess, if you're going to have all this underneath, maybe he sacrificed and we didn't know it in the draft. So where I was drafting Mahomes and whatnot, he was still picking dogs. And as you can see, where his quarterback is lacking, the rest of his team is pretty good. And we know, I mean, he got starters on the bench with Walker. I mean,
Yeah,
Walker's a starter and he's on the
interesting.
bench. So and he has some good backups. Warren. There's no telling anything happens to Najee Harris, and Warren is right in there. He's a
Yep.
good back. A lot of people think he's going to split time anyway. So we'll see how that goes.
He's got some stashes. He's got Jalen
Right.
Warren, he's got Jameson Williams, who was suspended for the first 4 games of the year
Yeah.
for Detroit, but I'm not gonna lie, I've got him stashed on my one of my other leagues.
Yeah.
He's a good stash to have because if he comes back and combines with Amon St. Brown, and they start becoming this tandem with Goff, and this offense is what we think it is, Jameson Williams could be a really big pickup. Tank Bigsby is another one that he's, taking a sleeper, the possible, like, to pay off later in the year, which is what you do in fantasy. Those guys that drafted Breece Hall and Pacheco and Rashad White last year, they reaped the benefits later on in the season. So that's what he's
Right.
looking at. But it ain't gonna affect you in week 1, so you gotta go with what you got till then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're gonna move on to Mello. Well, ooh, good quarterback matchup. We'll just go line by line. Good
Yep,
quarterback matchup. We
great.
have Lamar Jackson versus Jalen Hurts. Man, if we're going off of last year, I'm riding with Hurts on this one. Lamar Jackson, you know, winning that MVP early helped his mystique, helped his legend overall. Because, Lamar hasn't been good for about 3 years as far as like really throwing the ball around. I don't think he's been over 3,000 yards passing in 3 years. So, the MVP season, it's looking like a little further away than we think. So it's still the best receiving core he's probably ever had overall, and it's still not that really good of a receiving core. We don't know what Zay Flowers is going to do. Odell is just to me like I'm not putting any stock in Odell at all. He can still run. I've seen that, but maybe he can get you a good first down here and there, 3rd and 5, or what I'm saying, give him a good explosiveness off the line. So but from an overall perspective, I just think Jalen is the better quarterback and he has the better weapons. So I'm riding with Jalen this matchup here.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Just think about the quarterback position. You riding with
I
on
I
this too?
think the
Like,
biggest thing for this matchup is the fact of who they're playing. Lamar Jackson's at home against Houston, Jalen's on the road against New England. So for this week, it could go tilt toward Jackson a little bit as far as numbers. Over the course of an entire season, I would definitely go with Jalen because even though the Eagles, one
yeah,
thing you got
that's
to
a
be
good point.
careful. The Eagles got a really tough schedule, so week to week,
The Eagles
he's
do.
gonna
The Eagles do have a really tough schedule. I just think Lamar's rusty, man. I think I don't know nobody in New England that can really scare me. Houston is just a big question mark. We don't even know. But yeah, man, I think you know you see Belichick trying to soften Jalen up. Oh, I don't, they asked him, did you have guys in practice running, as a scout for Jalen? Oh, you can't mimic Jalen. Nobody can mimic Jalen.
yeah, no
I was like,
bulletin board
get
material.
out of here. I'm not saying he's wrong, but come on, man. You can run a scout with somebody, depending on what you're trying to do. You should have somebody that can run a scout of it. But that's just Belichick making his little bird nest so you can land real softly on it, or maybe come to him 3 to 5 years later. But
Yeah, it's
anyway,
not giving you any bulletin board material whatsoever. So
right,
yeah, he's been
0.
very cordial about how good the Eagles are.
Hmm.
So I don't like that. I'd rather him be disrespectful, but that's how it is.
Right,
Going back to
right.
this matchup, I tell you what, the wide receiver matchup looks really good, but the slight edge is definitely DeMelo's team. You got Justin Jefferson and St. Brown going tonight against Adams and Godwin. Adams and Godwin on any other given day are a pair of great receivers. You see the projected points 16 and 14, but then you move over to the right a little bit and you see 21 and 17 projected for Melo's wide receivers. So you got to give the edge there. And again, it goes back down to matchups too, but pure talent. Justin Jefferson, Amon St. Rob Brown is probably two of the best receivers you're going to get together on a fantasy team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another one of those cats. Mel took 3 wide receivers first,
Mhm.
his first 3 picks, and yeah, man, it looks. Woo, you're right, man. I'm around. I think he can go. I think he can go crazy. But hear me out on this point. Which we're just talking about week one. So right now, St. Brown is definitely the one, but Williams on the back end could start vulturing some of that. But week one, just focusing on week one. You're right, man. You're right, man.
Definitely.
Normally, you never want to go up against Devontae Adams, but when you just so happen to have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen is left, I know they have a new rookie in, but so what? He's not Adam Thielen. He doesn't have that rapport with Cousins. So I'm definitely riding with Justin Jefferson and Amon St. Brown here as well. Going to the running back matchup, you got James Conner and White.
Mm.
You mentioned Shaw White. Guys that picked him up last year reaped the benefits. Now he's number one dude there. Fournette's free agent. Um, so we talked about Connor early. I don't know if let's just look at it overall. J.K. Dobbins and Miles Sanders.
Mhm.
I don't really have faith in either one of those because I've never seen them. Well, we've seen Dobbins, but he can come in for 6 or 7 snaps and get hurt. They can put Gus Edwards in. They have a lot of guys that they can throw at you at the goal line, including Lamar Jackson. So it's always tricky with any Baltimore running backs. And Miles Sanders, man, I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell you how he's going to perform in Carolina. Do I think he's a 20 plus back? Could he carry a 20 plus? He could. Yeah,
Mhm.
he could. Sure. But one thing that hindered him during the Eagles' time was he wasn't available. That's why we ended up having 3 or 4 running backs. So that's how we got that running back by committee because Sanders never stayed healthy when we really needed him to. And when it comes to Connor, I just think they only have Connor. So they may just target on him, take him out the game plan, and really all you have left is White there. With White, and I think Tampa Bay is going to be behind often, early and often. So man, I'm still gonna have to lean Connor and White here.
Mm.
Just because I just don't know what you get out of Dobbins and Sanders, honestly.
I'm glad I don't have any of these 4 running backs. I'll just say that right now. And I think I joked with Mello during the draft, and we end up he accidentally took Waddle as his 3rd wide receiver. He meant to draft, and it auto drafted him by accident, but he did take 3 wide receivers first, and I think that hurts because you look at his running back. Dobbins is a serviceable back. Miles Sanders, we've seen him in Philly. We know what he can do, but the problem, he's in a bad situation in Carolina. He's with a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young that teams are going to stack the box for until he can prove that he can beat them with the pass. So because it's a rookie quarterback that Miles is going to get a lot of the carries. The running game is going to come first because they're not going to let Bryce Young throw 30 passes on week 1 or this maybe for most of the first half of the season. So it's a bad situation
Right.
for Sanders because he's going to be running uphill into a lot of defenders. And that's going to be tough. Once you get the ball, you're going to have people in your backfield. Same thing that you said, everything that needs to be said about Dobbins. We talked about Connor. White, I think, can have a good year. Tampa Bay, it all depends on the quarterback play is. We don't know what Baker Mayfield we're going to get. Are we going to get the one that played really well in the Rams, or are we going to be the one that was in all the commercials and didn't do crap in Cleveland? I don't know. But Rachaad White, regardless, should have a decent year. But yeah, you're right. As far as the running back edge, it's almost a wash. Slight edge because we know Connor and White are going to get a lot of carries. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, if you go into the tight ends, we don't even need to discuss. Goddard's got the edge on this matchup right now. Johnson in New Orleans could have a good year if that team plays really well like they can. That is a very stout offensive team now that they got Carr. You add Olave, if Thomas has a good year and Kamara gets back to form, Johnson could just reap the benefits just by being on that team and being
Right.
open because everybody's trying to cover all those other stars. So
Good point.
that could down the road could be good. But this week I would take Goddard and Philly, especially if the weather's bad, then you're going to see a lot of shorter passes. You're going to see some underneath stuff to Goddard and letting him. One of my favorite plays from last year, you remember it was the tight end screen, just the tight end bubble screen that they ran to Goddard so many times
Yeah.
because once that freight train starts choo-chooing and Goddard gets that pass, he demolishes people. Those bubble screens were usually good for 10 or more yards. I love those plays. So I think that's going to be the same this year.
Yeah, man. I agree. Goddard definitely has the edge. Johnson was touchdown dependent last year.
Mhm.
I think he'll be the same this year. But if anything from Carr to Waller tells you anything, it's that he will go to the tight end in Derek Carr. So Johnson was a boomer bust. Really just a really touchdown dependent. Not even boomer bust, just touchdown dependent. Either he scored a touchdown, I think Joe had him last year, or he didn't. Going to the flex position, you got to give the edge to Waddle here. But I think Williams, man, he was coming up before he had that ACL injury. I mean, he runs really hard. I've seen him play twice live in Denver, once against the Eagles, once against the Titans, and really, really hard runner. He could have a sleeper year. Nobody's really paying attention to Denver. Everybody's kind of down on Denver, but man, Williams is a formidable back out there in Denver. He can really shock the world. I'm still going with Waddle in this matchup just because with them playing the Chargers, it's going to be a shootout, I believe. You have good offense on both sides. It's going to be a shootout. So I'm taking Waddle definitely when it comes to the flex position. Kicker position, what are you going to say?
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
Right. It doesn't, man. If your kicker gets hot, good on you. But overall, these kickers are evenly matched. And yeah, man, we'll see how that works out for them. And last, but not least, the defense position, man. Pittsburgh versus Buffalo. Talked a little bit about Pittsburgh's defense earlier. When I was mentioning as far as, I'm not really big on their secondary, but their line is good, especially TJ Watt, tied for the record in sacks with 22 and a half. Just an amazing player, and really disruptive. Really, really, really disruptive. So, you got Brock Purdy coming off of that game last year, you playing the Eagles, and then your first game back is against TJ Watt. So, and not even just TJ, Hardgrave as well, too. No, I'm sorry. Hardgrave, he's on San Francisco. I'm thinking about
He's on San
Kansas.
Francisco,
My
but
bad. My
I
bad.
would say that to Brock Purdy, bring extra thick elbow pads for playing the Steelers because you're going to need to protect yourself, especially because we don't want to hear you whine all season about how the 49ers could have gone undefeated had Brock Purdy not got hurt in week one because that's
Right.
what they like to do when they lose. But anyway, not that we're harkening back to last year or anything, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the matchup again, this one is kind of a wash because both teams are playing tough opponents. I think until we know what Aaron Rodgers has in the Jets, I think that Buffalo going in to play in MetLife is going to be it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I think that at least offensively, the Jets have on paper have a pretty good team. I mean, you've got Cook, Dalvin Cook, and Brees Hall, and running back Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's just to start with. So that could be an interesting game on
It,
Monday.
it is, man. You know what's so interesting about the Jets in general is that I believe you have this very young group of guys, right? This whole new generation. I mean, the
Mhm.
Rodgers and the Sauce Gardners, they're like officially from separate generations. And I think it could be one of those situations where you get there and they start winning games and then they do really well. But I think Rodgers can really start to rub these guys the wrong way. I watched a few Hard Knocks and how hard he was getting on some of these young guys.
Mhm.
This generation doesn't really respond as well to the way he's going about it, like the finger pointing and stuff like that. people like to talk more in general. We need to do, but when you start going, you dropped the pass and you missed the block, and that old school kind of way of Rodgers, man, I think I'm really thinking this Jets thing is going to blow up in their face, man. I really do, man. I don't think they look good all preseason. I think you have Garrett Wilson, and that's their like just really special player. The other guys, Cobb, they keep talking about Cobb. Like, who's really checking for Cobbs? I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Lazard Allen, Allen Lazard. Like, I get it, solid players, but man, you do have Dalvin Cook and Brees Hall, and that is big money. That is, but I just think I just think Aaron could. I don't know. He got there and he started going out to all the events in New York, really trying to ingratiate himself with the community
Sure.
and whatnot. But I really think, man, the moment Rodgers feels any pushback, he starts to whine.
Yeah.
He starts to whine. He starts to blame. He starts to bitch and complain, man. And last year they're going into the playoffs and he's talking about his toe, putting his toe in the camera. I just think he can be distracting. And how fast. It's one thing playing in Wisconsin. There is a whole nother thing playing in New York. The moment they can eat you, they will. And I think he's not, he went to Cal, Berkeley. They're not going to eat you there. And you go to Green Bay, they're not you there. Now you're in New York, bro. Every week, everybody with a microphone is going to make you question everything you've ever done every time. It's still amazing that Eli won 2 Super Bowls there with those under that environment with his temperament and personality.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Crazy.
man, I think the Jets, man, I'm looking at the Jets like it could blow up, but I think they have a good leader in Salah. I think he can probably keep it together, but he's still really unproven, but he seems to be a good leader for them.
Right.
A good middle ground guy. You can talk to the old guys, you can talk to the young guys, type of dude. So, yeah, man.
I think with
What's
the
next?
Giant Jets thing, the only thing I'm going to say is that it, we've seen it before with a Green Bay quarterback going to the New York Jets. Starts off
Oh
pretty
shit.
well. It starts off pretty well. It started off pretty well for Favre, and then the wheels came off eventually. I mean, they did well. What the first season they went to the playoffs, and then it just again with Favre, it was more along the lines of the gunslinger thing. They're different players.
Right.
Rodgers doesn't put it up like Favre does, and just it's that whole gunslinger mentality. But I do think you're right. I think it is tough when you're going into a relatively young team as an older player, and the personalities may not match as much. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, this is the great thing. Week 1, I think I've said we'll see maybe 15 times tonight
Right.
because there is no definites. There is
Right.
everybody is 0-0. So we
Right.
don't know how it's gonna go. We
Right.
probably should talk a little bit about the tonight's game before we roll out of here.
Okay.
We get about 10 minutes, I guess, before 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Before we
If
get
you
out of
wanna
here,
look over this one real quick,
I'm gonna look over this one real quick, and then yeah, man, about 10 minutes we'll close it out. So just off the rip, man, based off of last year, you got Deshaun Watson, you have Allen. You have to go Allen here, even if they are playing the Jets.
oh
You
yeah,
just have to go Allen here because you have 2 divisional game. So nobody's playing the scrub. One's playing Cincinnati, the other one's playing the Jets. We know the Jets have a good defense, and Allen can ball, and he's played against them. They've been in the division. He's not going to be shocked by what's to come. Only maybe Buffalo's defense may be shocked by what's to come, but not their offense. We'll knock out the wide receivers.
yeah. I mean, on one side you got Brown, which again we talked about the difference between having Devontae and Brown. It all depends on who Jalen is targeting in that game. More for Chicago, you're dependent on what Justin Fields is doing. But then the other side, you got Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs. So it's very balanced. I would lean a little bit more toward the Diggs Allen side because you know what you're getting on that side. It's less predictable. You know Herbert's going to be going for Allen, and that Allen's going to be going for Diggs. So yeah, I would lean a little bit toward Gustavo's rad team on that matchup for the wide receiver.
Yeah, man. For the running backs, man, you have Nick Chubb and Barkley. That's gonna be a wash.
Hmm.
Both guys are the workhorse for their team, especially with Kareem Hunt not being active for Cleveland. Then you have Stevenson and Pacheco. I'm still going Stevenson here. Because he's a 3 down back. He's finally ready to have his star role now that Damian Harrison is gone. I'm
Mhm.
rolling with Chirac Soldiers running back committee here.
It's
I'll
hard with
start it.
Pacheco because we don't know who's gonna get the ball. Tonight, it may be Pacheco because of Kelsey being out, but that's they spread it out. So, he 11 is probably a careful estimate for Pacheco. One thing I like about Pacheco, though, is when he does get the ball, the guy runs like the friggin' ball owes him money. He punishes the
For
ground.
sure.
He is such an intense back to watch run. I'm always impressed when I see him. I think if the Chiefs changed their offense a little bit and featured him more, oh, I think they'd be deadly, even deadlier than they are as Super Bowl champs, and that could be possible. Anyway, tight end.
Waller, Andrews. Man,
Yeah.
this is to me. This is still a toss up. I'm not going to disrespect Waller, like he can't put up points. I just don't know how often Jones is going to go to the tight end, but we know, sure as grits as groceries, is that Lamar Jackson is going to Mark Andrews with the ball, no matter where they're at on the field. If he's healthy, if he's on the field, he's there. He is going to Andrews. So I'm still going to call it a toss up for now. Yeah, because I can't really down Wild. Talent for talent, this is a toss up here. You're going to wide receiver. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the flex position. You have Evans versus Michael Pittman. Man,
Yeah, I can't tell you on that one. I think Evans, he's up there in years now. He's not the Evans that was several years ago. Even when Brady wasn't there, he wasn't putting up big numbers. And Pittman's a great receiver, but the quarterback situation in Indy is the
I don't
problem.
know.
Now, I think Pittman probably has the higher ceiling because you've got Richardson coming in there that can sling it. And if Pittman can get loose, we could see a couple, at least one, 60-yard reception and run for a touchdown. You
Yeah,
could easily see something like that because Richardson can sling it 60 yards. And and so that would be more I'd lean a little bit only because of the ceiling that Pittman has. He could be at least one or two big plays in that game with Richardson slinging the ball downfield.
yeah. And we have the kickers. We got Elliott versus Lutz.
Yeah.
Not going to dwell too much on that. We talked about the Jets. Here go that defense again. Coming out. They're stout. They're talking a lot, but here they are. With only 10-point projection because they're going up against Buffalo. So that's a really tough matchup for that Jets defense to start out. But at least most of the guys are paid and happy. Quentin Williams got paid, so he should be hungry on that line. But Baltimore, man, going up against the quarterback, I just think, and really no real bona fide weapons out there in Houston. Um, and I think Baltimore can eat them up. We'll see, man. But like you said, week one, it's a lot of we'll sees. I think it's some people that still don't even know football is coming on tonight. I'm sure somebody out there that's going to be flicking through their channels and say, "Damn, football started." So it's tonight's the night, man. Where and towards the end of the weekend, you'll probably see a few more clips from us again. Um, yeah, man. So good luck to you on this week, man. So how you feeling about this game tonight, Detroit and Kansas City,
Well,
with no Kelsey?
Yeah, with no Kelsey, so we know we're not starting Kelsey tonight. But I tell you what, the big thing you got to look at for this game is who else is available to start. We know Mahomes is a must start. That's like ridiculous. And
Right.
Amon St. Armon Raw St. Brown, uh, what is
I'm a raw.
Amon Ra St.
I'm a
Brown
raw. Yeah.
is a must start. But
Yeah.
then when you get down, you got Jameer Gibbs, got to start him if you drafted him. But there are other players out there that you might want to give a look to. Like if you have, I have Jared Goff on my bench in one of my other leagues, and it's tough because I have Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff. So who do I
Right.
go with this week? Last year the Chiefs were not really great against the pass. I think they were 20th in the league against the pass. Um, and they gave up a ton of yards to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They score by grinding it out on offense and just constantly putting up points against you. So
Right.
can Detroit and Goff do that tonight? So you got to give Goff a strong look if he's on your bench. I don't think a lot of people drafted Goff to be their starter. If they drafted him, there may be a few in some 12-team leagues, but he's somebody in this matchup that that the Chiefs score a lot. That Goff's going to get a lot of possessions. So do you start Goff this week? And also another one that I think that you got to look at starting maybe is David Montgomery, because if you've got him and you need a flex, I wouldn't
Mhm.
start him in my two running back positions, but if you've got
Okay.
Montgomery, and you need a flex option, Montgomery is going to be the starter. He's going to be the early down back. It's only a matter of time before Jahmyr Gibbs assumes that role and takes over. How long, I don't know. But I think tonight you would be safe to plug him in to see what Montgomery can do for you in a Lions, and we'll see how that goes throughout the year. You just got to keep monitoring it. Do you see anybody on this besides those big names? First of all, what do you think about Goff and Montgomery? And then second of all, would you see anybody else in this game that's worth starting outside the big names?
Yeah, man. Well, let me answer the second one first,
Okay.
while it's at the top of my head. I think Sky Moore. I think with Kelsey being down, I'm gonna go with a pass guy because somebody from the pass is down. Sky Moore, Sky Moore, he came in, heavily talented, really fast guy, like a Tyreek Hill. It's kind of like the Tyreek Hill replacement. So I want to see what he does when they can go into more of an offense where they can cover everybody except for focusing on Kelsey. Then see what looks he gets, see how he looks as the main guy, Sky Moore. But I think he's going to have a good season. The backs, you can't trust any back from Kansas City. Pacheco, I guess we'll know after this week, where he's going with it. But if he doesn't really catch the ball out of the backfield, it's always going to be an uphill battle in the PPR league when it comes to Pacheco. Because we know down there by the goal line, they do all the little trick plays. They like to toss it to Kelsey. Mahomes like to do little bootlegs. It's just no telling where the ball's going to go. You see in the Super Bowl, they went to Sky Moore, in that play where they ran him in tight, confused, and wait for the drop. It's just no telling where they're going to go with the ball. But yeah, man, Sky Moore is my guy. And I think when it comes to Goff, I think you have to start Goff unless believe Goff is a must start. I don't know. To me, if I had Goff, I would start him until I just saw that he wasn't playing well. But overall, he has the weapons to stretch the field, man. He can. His biggest loss is Hawkinson. Like his biggest loss is Hawkinson, but he gained more. Maybe if Williams was starting out, I'd probably be a little more comfortable. But especially when Williams gets back, they have just young guys that can run all around, man, and they have protection. And David Montgomery, he can at least block. The one thing that I forgot to mention when I talked about Miles Sanders in Carolina is who's going to block for Young, not Miles Sanders. So that's another problem with having a small running back like that. But anyway, yeah, man, and David Montgomery, he's no slouch, man. David Montgomery's still a really solid player. I think he's going to make Gibbs earn everything that he gets. Can Gibbs still run between the tackles, or he's still more of an outside guy? That's the reason why they kind of got rid of Swift. So it really all depends. We will know again, I think, more after this week. So you got the Goff one. What was that other one besides Goff?
I said Goff and Montgomery was the
Montgomery.
two
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
was
So
looking
yeah, I
at.
covered it all. So yeah, man. It's no telling. Montgomery can hold him off a little longer too. Veterans can tend to do that. Look at like Najee and like Warren. We know Warren can play, but he's holding him off, and then he may leave. Look at David Montgomery holding off the young boy Herbert last year. He came from a situation where he had to, hold off a young bull. So
I
we'll see
agree.
what happens there, man.
I
But
agree.
I'm
So
definitely excited for this season, man. I cannot wait. Man, it's a long season too. I won't start worrying until about week 9 on my fantasy roster and stuff like that. I've seen people turn it around. Melo came out of nowhere last year. He was in the depths and then he just caught fire.
yeah,
The McCaffrey trade changed everything for him.
yeah, definitely.
And there's no telling, who's that McCaffrey trade this year. I don't know if anybody's that explosive that can make that much of a change, but it's always lurking and it's always out there.
That's true. It's gonna be fun. I'm stoked. I'm getting ready to like say get off of here and go watch that game. I can't wait. This weekend is a big weekend all the way around. Let's go.
And we still Eagles fans over here, so I'm still gonna give my Philadelphia Eagles prediction. Philadelphia Eagles 31, New England 17. Fly Eagles fly, as always. Oh, I love my Eagles. Oh, I love them so much. Oh, I can't wait to see them this Sunday. Oh, can't wait. I'm mad they playing the second game. I'm mad they playing the second game.
Yeah, and
What you
then they
got,
gotta
man?
turn around and play on Thursday night, which is crazy. Right off the bat, a short week. But
Get that
let's
over
get it
with,
out of
though.
the way.
We get that over with, though.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out the
You
way.
know, and I'm wearing the Lions jersey for those who just tuned in because I'm originally from Detroit, so I'm supporting them for tonight's game. But yeah, I'm an Eagles fan from since I was 9 years old and diehard and love them to death. And I think that this week, I think with the weather, I'll say the Eagles 24-10, something in the low scoring range where it'll be a little bit more
All
conservative.
right.
But I think the defense will contain the Pats.
All right. As always, thanks everybody for stopping by the Fantasy Waiver Wire. Check us out on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, the Fantasy Waiver Wire or Fantasy Waiver Wire 23. And yeah, man. Joy, sit back. First game of the season. Gotta be excited, man. With that said, man, we are gone.